So we're going to go ahead and go into our next one here. I already introduced him. He's going to be giving our update to the Seminole Tribe of Florida's Big Cypress and Brighton solar project. So one more time, let's give a warm round of applause for Harvey Rambrath. Here you go, boss.
Morning. Thank you for that introduction, Chance. And I apologize for the technical difficulty. I wanted to use my own laptop because on that I actually have access to the Big Cypress solar project, the monitoring sites, and I wanted to show you what was actually going on there real time. Unfortunately, my HDMI is not cooperating with the presentation, so I'm going to go and use the backup plan, which is the one on the Native Learning Center's presentation. Once again, my name is Harvey Rambrath. I'm the Assistant Director of Planning and Development with the Seminole Tribe of Florida. And today I will be providing an overview of the Big Cypress and Brighton solar projects. For those of you who have attended these seminars in the past, this year is an update of these projects that I've been providing over the last 5 years. So quite a number of the slides are going to be familiar, but I will be focusing a lot upon lessons learned because I have a lot to share. So the Seminole Tribe, just before we get to that, some statistics about the Seminole Tribe. When this presentation was first put in about 5 years ago, the tribal population was around 4,240. I'm happy to say that it's now over 4,360 based upon the information we received from the tribal clerk. And since we started this, the tribe has actually went and built the Lakeland Reservation. And it's still under construction, but people are actually living here now. Brief history about the Seminole Tribe. It has exercised sovereign authority over territories in the Southeast United States from time immemorial. It resisted political and military removal efforts throughout the 19th century. It was organized under the Indian Reorganization Act of 1957. And there are two sections. The Seminole Tribe government oversees the governmental operations, and then there's a board of directors that oversees the commercial or the business arm of the tribe. The tribe is recognized for leadership in advancing sovereignty. It had the first smoke shops in 1976, the first high-stakes bingo in 1979, and the first guitar-shaped hotel in 2019. I'm sure you guys saw it when you were in here. All right. So what are some of the problems the tribe faces? Similar to many other tribes, we depend on outside energy providers for electricity, and we have no authority over these electric providers, and we are unable to plan long term because of unknown future energy costs. And these are the electric providers: the FPL, Glaze Electric, Lee County Electric, and Lakeland Electric. These are some of the providers that serve the tribe. Retail prices, that utility charges price have been increasing, and costs may continue to rise as users leave the utility and start using solar or alternative energy supplies. What prompted the tribe to go towards the solar projects? Well, in 2018, there was this hurricane called Irma, 1718, and most of the tribe's reservations and business and government operations were affected. A lot of the facilities across the tribe reservation sustained severe damage. And I do actually have an animation that shows the path of Hurricane Irma through the tribe, but I'm not going to go through that because I want to focus on more on the lessons learned. Again, this is more about the hurricane. The tribe had to close and discontinue its government operations for several weeks, and in some cases months, until recovery. At the time, there were about 680 tribal members living in the Big Cypress Reservation and 690 living in the Brighton Reservation, who were particularly impacted because they lost power for almost 2 weeks. And in the aftermath of Irma, because the tribe has generators, backup generators for all of its residential homes and commercial properties, it was the largest purchaser of propane and diesel for generators in Florida. And we quickly discovered that even commercial generators are not designed to run nonstop for weeks. So in 2018, the chairman formed the Renewable Energy Committee. And this committee was charged with ensuring power continuity across critical tribal operations to the extent possible during and after a storm, and to identify solutions to mitigate and limit power outages as a result of a storm, and to identify opportunities that will allow the tribe to be as self-sufficient as possible and to meeting its energy demands. So we look to the sun. And that brings us to the Big Cypress Solar Project. Some of the project partners, the usual suspects: Seminole Tribe of Florida, the Department of Energy, Office of Energy, Indian Energy, our consultants. The contractor for the project is Advanced Green Technologies, and Glades Electric, which is the electric provider for the Big Cypress and Brighton Reservation. We also use Baker Tilly to assist us with regards to resizing and writing the scope of the RFP for the project. So when the project was awarded, the idea was to design and build approximately 445 kilowatt of solar facilities and 1,510 kilowatt of battery energy storage systems in order to provide resilience to the Big Cypress reservations. These systems were to be interconnected with the grid and the backup generators, and during outage, the BESS must be able to run the facilities for approximately 3 hours before the generator kicks in. And when the generator kicks in, the generator will run the facility and recharge the BESS. And then it'll cut off when the BESS reaches a certain charging level. That was the plan. That was the design requirements. This here is the final plans for the Frank Billy Field office that shows the location of the array. In this particular installation, we use ground-mounted array, and we connect it to an existing generator. I'll show you some pictures next. During construction, and the generator, well, 7 years ago, that generator looked a lot better than it does now. And more construction photos. This is the site, and now these are the batteries and the control systems. And here was the finished product with the solar array and the battery system. The senior center, we used carport-mounted solar panels, and that again is connected to the existing generator for the building. Similar idea. Here are the photos during construction. Finished product. I still just before that cleaned it up. Now it's all, there's no longer any orange barrier fence over there. And this is a picture underneath. And this is the finished product. At the Big Cypress Health Clinic, we ended up going with rooftop mounted solar panels as well as carport mounted solar panels, because this facility uses the most electricity on the reservation. These are some construction photos. That's the carport. Another photo of the carport and the finished assembly. At the Big Cypress Public Safety Building, we were originally going to put the I wonder if you can see it. Maybe you can use the mouse. Can you all see this on the screen, the mouse? Anyway, in the area where you see existing generator, where that call out is, that's the general area where the panels were supposed to go. However, that area is an impound lot, and we were not allowed to clear it out. So we looked to other areas that we could put it. And the area that we actually chose for it is a dry retention area that was very dry at the time, and we thought it would be a great location to put the panels. But we quickly found out that when it rains, that area gets flooded and it takes a long time to dry. Fortunately, we were able to drive most of the piles before the rainy season kicked in. And but there were like 15 piles that were not able to be to be installed. So we had to come up with an alternative solution for that. And in the picture to the right, you will see there's like a concrete block that's 8 feet by 3 feet by 1 foot concrete block that is used to anchor the panel over there instead of driving the pile. More construction photos. You can see our dry retention is pretty wet most of the time. But on a more positive note, this particular installation has been the most productive out on the reservation. And I think it's a great reuse of property that could otherwise be unusable, to be able to take a dry retention area where you can't build anything and actually put solar panels and be able to generate the amount of energy that we are generating. Seems to be a win-win situation. Some of the issues that we experienced with this project, it's like Murphy's Law. Whatever could go wrong did go wrong. As you all know, we experienced COVID between the time this project was awarded for construction and by the time it was finally built. So we lost some time there. And with the COVID came the supply chain issues, which actually delayed the availability of material. Motorized breakers, we had like an 18-month lead time before we could get them, and cost went up. So bottom line, the tribe had to issue a change order. So the original contract amount was $2,945,000, and we had to issue a change order for over $500,000 in order to cover legitimate cost increases. And we also had to extend the contract time. We had to also process a second change order. This one was just for time, no additional cost, but it was because of the issues with regards to the long lead time for the motorized breakers and the ATSs. Here are some of the things, unforeseen circumstances that occurred during construction. We did hit an unmarked sanitary sewer line, so now we had to repair that. And there was a cut in the roof membrane on the Big Cypress Health Clinic that we did not realize until after it rained heavily and water leaked into the facility. With regards to the Big Cypress roof installation, there are no penetration, or there were not supposed to be any penetrations to the roof, because those panels are mounted on frames that are kept on the roof by ballast trucks. So that way you avoid penetrating the roof, except in this case that happened and it caused the leak. Another thing we didn't realize, and I'll be talking about a little more in my lessons learned slide, was the motorized breakers. This was something that took a very long time to get here, and then when it did and we installed it, it was not functioning the way it was supposed to function, because when the power was interrupted, it needed power in order for it to function. So, that's why we had to come and install a UPS to back up the motorized breaker in order to make it function. It took about a month for us to figure that out, or for the contractor to figure that out. And they had to report back to the supplier, and they have to redesign their motorized breakers in order to facilitate that. Another problem we encountered was originally when the project was let out to bid, we thought that we'd be able to provide internet connectivity for the sites for monitoring purposes. However, due to security concerns, our IT department did not permit that, so the contractor had to come up with using cellular modems for monitoring the site, and those aren't the most reliable. So here are some of the lessons learned that I've talked about earlier. Double checking PV and BESS storage needs to provide the desired resilience, balancing the size of the BESS to allow the desired duration of battery-only energy without oversizing can be difficult to explain. Many times people ask, why just 3 hours? Why not 3 weeks? Well, the answer is you're going to have to put a whole lot of batteries out there, and the energy that's going to be stored, and that's just going to be sitting there. It's not going to be used. So the cost is going to be tremendous, and your batteries are not going to be functioning optimally because you want the power to be recycling in the batteries. So that's why the balance is 3 hours minimum in backup with the BESS. That will allow, in an extended outage, it would allow routine maintenance on the generators. So if it's running in an extended outage like a Hurricane Irma event, the BESS would run the facility for about at least 3 hours. When the generator kicks in, the generator will charge the BESS and run the facility at the same time. After the battery reaches back up to 80%, generator cuts off, then the BESS takes over running the facility for another 3 hours. That's the way it's designed to work. I'll talk a little more about that in a bit. I talked about supply chain issues, about underground locates, and dry retention areas being a great location to put solar panel arrays, and roofs can be damaged. Torque testing is important. Start working early on your interconnection agreements, because that takes time going back and forth between your legal departments. And expect resistance to service interruptions for interconnection from facility users. We had a lot of problems with regards to the installation, and I know you probably can't read this from the back there, but what I did was I had the contractor put together a list of all of the issues that they experienced, or the major issues that they experienced, which prevented them from completing the project in a timely basis, and which caused interruptions to service. They provided an 18-page document, and I summarized it into one slide here. And basically, we looked at the issue, we defined the issue, analyzed the issue, and figure out how to overcome this issue, because we also have the Brighton solar project, and we are not going to issue the notice to proceed for construction until we are assured that the type of issues that occurred at Big Cypress is not going to happen in Brighton when that project goes into construction. One of the first issue they had was temporary power and rental equipment. The shutdowns were premature. The backup generators failed, and automatic transfer switches did not function properly. Before we shut down all of these facilities, we rented backup generators, and at the public safety building, we actually rented a backup generator and a backup generator for that backup generator. So we had 2 backup generators at the public safety facility, and the backup generators failed when we had some outages. So how do you overcome that? Well, first of all, the contractor says that they are going to verify that rental equipment are recently serviced and working properly and available, and that there's available 24-hour service if needed. So that's the plan for that issue. STOF internet access, well, they solved that problem with regards to by using the cellular modem. It took about 4 months before they were able to get it working properly. And there's still some connection issue because all of us have cell phones, and we know sometimes the signal fades to 0. You have 1 bar, depending on a number of factors, but that's still an issue. Shutdowns, building power durations were not adhered to, and the current transformers and the grounding were installed incorrectly. What happened was some of the buildings, as they were wired, were not up to code. And when they went to do the interconnection, they found out that some of the current transformers were in the wrong locations, and the temporary power was not tested. So For the Brighton project, they're saying that shutdown will only occur after verification of wiring of all components. We need to make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be and the buildings are properly wired before they do any shutdowns. And they will make sure that the generators are tested. The relay programming was not correct, and this came from Custom Control Technology. They have now worked with FlexGen and Custom Control Technology to define the parameters for how this thing is supposed to be operating, so it should be a more seamless transition. And all of these things were issues that caused, that have been resolved. All of these issues over here have been resolved at Big Cypress. And during the project, we actually required, when they were doing the testing over the Christmas holidays and for the first couple of weeks in January, AGT had 24/7 staff available at the Big Cypress Reservation in case anything went wrong in order to address this facility. After they had completed it and they had automated the functions, and they had provided proof that they had entered into a monitoring contract with FlexGen, which is the battery manufacturer, to monitor the site, that is when we said, okay, you no longer need to keep staff on site 24/7, because now they assured us that everything that could be done, that would have to be done, could be done remotely. Unfortunately, yesterday we had an incident where at the Big Cypress Health Clinic, a dental technician, there was a power outage because apparently 2 ducts landed on a line and caused the transformer to blow, and that resulted in a power interruption. And there was a pregnant staff member in the elevator, and she got stuck in there because the battery did not turn on automatically as it was supposed to. Was not a very happy day for me yesterday. Got some emails which basically said that I was a liar because I assured everybody everything was automated, because that was the information that was provided to me. Come to find out, the problem was that yes, AGT had entered into a monitoring agreement with FlexGen. FlexGen, the battery manufacturer, never activated the monitoring group. So we had a situation where nobody was watching. So when the interruption took place, they were not able to automatically go and reset the breaker in order for it to function. As soon as FlexGen was made aware of it, they were able to restart it and everything was working fine over there. But yesterday I actually had a meeting with them, and they have assured us that they will have the monitoring contract activated, and until that monitoring contract is activated, the contractor AGT has sent staff out on site again to be on site in case there was any incident last night and today. Until that they have provided proof that the monitor is going on, AGT will have to keep staff out there. So that was the situation, and that's the result. But yes, the sites are automated. We have had a lot of problems with the generator. Right now, the sites are functional like this. Power goes down, the BESS will kick in and run the facility for at least 3 hours. And then, if the generator, we have not been able to get 2 of the generators to recharge the BESS. That's at the Frank Billy Field office and at the senior center, because those are older generators and their controls cannot, they have not been able to get the controls to work in order to recharge the BESS at these facilities. At this point in time, I wanted to show you all the dashboards that I have flexions. I actually have a separate dashboard for each of the site from the hybrid operating system, and I have a dashboard from AGT that shows the solar production. And even those dashboards have not been properly configured because I'm not able to see all of the information properly. They are still working out the bugs in it. But when it is completed, when the project has been completed, then we are going to accept the project and close it out. Because AGT's responsibility is to provide a system that works as it is supposed to work. That is grid out, battery runs facility, BESS gets depleted after 3 hours or more, then generator kicks in, generator recharges BESS, and generator runs facility. When the BESS gets recharged to 80%, the generator cuts off and the BESS runs the facility for another 3 hours. That is the way the project is supposed to design and function. So we have not yet accepted the project or closed it out. In this slide, you can see what, there's a comparison of what was planned and what was actually built. At the Big Cypress, we were looking at 780 battery capacity of 1,510 kilowatt hours, but we actually installed 1,750 kilowatt hours. And the solar capacity for all of the arrays should have been 445 kilowatts of DC power. We are actually anticipating 448 kilowatts. So it's actually a little more than what was planned. We received the certificate of completion for the project because all of the parts have been installed, it's working. The automation is not working properly. So how the system is supposed to work, these diagrams supposed to talk about it. Just shows the flow of power. This one shows what happens when peak shaving takes place. But I think this one actually is the easiest in order to understand it. Battery SOC stands for battery state of charge. So with a battery, you don't want to charge a battery to 100% because it loses its efficiency. You don't want to deplete a battery to 0% because, again, that shortens the lifespan of the battery. So we have this thing operating between 90% and 10% as minimum. So in normal operation, between 50% to 90% state of charge, the ESS, which is the battery energy storage system, will be able to discharge to reduce the load whenever there are peaks or high points in the power, the amount of draw from the grid. So if there's a lot of an X-ray machine, an elevator, and a whole bunch of other things working at the same time, air conditioning just starts up, the BESS is able to reduce the draw from the grid. And by doing so, it actually saves a lot of money because these peak demand charges are very expensive. And again, the chart shows that it operates between the state of charge of 80 and between 50 and 90. It's able to discharge. When it's below that, it saved that capacity for backup power. That's enough to run the facility for at least 3 hours. In the event where the grid is off, then the battery will be able to deplete down to 10%. So that actually lengthens the amount of time. Even though we had a minimum of 3 hours, these BESS, and that's 3 hours at the building operating at peak, these batteries will be able to run the facility for much longer than 4 hours in normal operation where you're not operating at peak. These are some snapshots from the grid, from the the battery monitoring system, from the hybrid operating system. And I've already talked a little bit about how it's going to operate. Again, for the monitoring dashboard from solar, you can see at the Frank Billy field office, at the time when the snapshot was taken, it was producing 13 kilowatts of power. That is reducing the building load. And it's reducing the energy needs for the facilities. And again, this chart shows how the BESS reduces the power, and you have a more even flow. When the solar and BESS is online, you have a more even distribution of power instead of large power swings. So that also saves on equipment because you don't have too much power variation. And I know this is getting very technical, but just to bring it down to terms of what is the system doing. For this, here's a snapshot of 2 electric bills, the one from November of 2022 and November of 2023. In November of 2022, for the public safety building, the bill was $13,347, and in November of 2023 was $5,079, so it was less than half of what it was. So it is saving us power. This year I put a chart, a table together that actually shows the power consumption, and month by month. So you can see, see if I got this working. How do I get a pointer? Okay. I'll be Vanna White. Okay, so if you look at it, this year's energy savings consumption, this is October 2022, October 2023. And we're looking at energy savings over here. Right now, you actually see we are not saving money at Big Cypress or the senior center at the health clinic. But we saved at the public safety building because that was the first one that came online. And it reduced the energy that we needed by 16,000 kilowatt hours. And that translated to a savings of 4,127 when we compare the cost between October 2022 and October 23. In November, it looks like the Frank Billy field office, the senior center, and public safety building were working, but the health clinic was not, because it was still, we used more energy then than we did the year before. So the combined savings was 34,689 kilowatts of energy saved, and that translated to 11,000 savings for the tribe. Similarly, in December, we actually got the health clinic up and running, but it was late in December, so we only saved like 2,320 kilowatts there. But the total for all of the facilities was 35,585 kilowatt hours of energy savings, which translated to $10,556 in energy savings for the tribe. So at present, all of the sites are fully automated to switching from generator, from grid to BESS to generator. And AGT is still working to resolve the generator issues to facilitate charging of the BESS by generator at 2 of the facilities, and they're also working to fix reporting information on the dashboards. Until these things are resolved, we are not going to issue the notice to proceed for construction for the Brighton 4 solar project. And that brings us to the Brighton 4 solar project.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
I can see your savings there. How long is it going to take for what it costs you to put that in?
Mm-hmm.
For the saving? I mean,
To
is it
recover?
30 years or is it?
Okay. If we were not, if we did not get a grant, and we did not get, and we are not going to be, and we did not receive the funding from that we are going to receive from the federal government, it would take about 17 years to recover the total investment. However, because we receive a $1.6 million grant from the federal government for this project, and through the Inflation Reduction Act, we are probably going to get back another $1.7 million. That leaves a little bit over $200,000 that the that the tribe's investment on the project will be.
So it's like
Yeah.
2.5 it cost you?
Yeah, 250,000. The total cost of the project is 3.5. So when you add the federal amount, we'll be getting back about, the tribe's investment will be just over 200,000. So if we are saving, let's take an average of $10,000 a month in 2 years, we should be able to pay back for the tribe investment, and the rest is going to be savings and profit to the tribe. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right. So that brings us to the Brighton 4 solar project. Again, same partners, and again, Glades Electric is providing power for this project. When we started off this project, we said we had 4 facilities that we are looking to do similar to the Big Cypress. We are looking at the Veterans Building, we are looking at the Administration Building, the Public Safety Building, and the Health Clinic. And same configuration in that we are going to require that we required that the BESS be able to maintain the facility for a minimum of 3 hours, and the backup generator has to be able to run the facility as well as charge the BESS. These were the concepts for the Public Safety and Administration Building, the Health Clinic, when we put out the RFP, and the Veterans Building, when we put out the RFP, the blue areas, or blue outline areas, were the areas where potential areas for placing the arrays. And the Health Clinic, we were looking to place ground mounted over there. However, it was determined that the Health Clinic we are going to be building a new Health Clinic in the near future. We actually started planning for the new Health Clinic at present, and the idea is the existing Health Clinic will be demolished. When we found that out, we went and we approached DOE and let them know, hey, this is the situation. We would like to be able to use the solar panels and the savings that we have from not being able to build that facility to increase the amount of solar panel that we'll be able to provide in the parking lot. So originally these arrays over here, this one was to serve the Public Safety Building, this one was for the Veterans Building, and this one was for the Administration Building, and this one is for the Veterans Building. The Public Safety Building in Brighton uses the most power. So what we decided to do was to add 2 additional arrays, one over here, and we'll connect these 2 arrays to the Brighton Public Safety Building. And what that does, it increases the amount of energy that we'll be able to save at that facility to about 34%. Before it was only like about 15%. So DOE agreed. We have changed the scope of work, so now we are providing energy savings to 3 facilities, but the amount that we are producing and the amount of battery storage is more than what we had originally planned for. And this here is like the site plan for the Administration Building that shows the potential wiring. This here is for the Public Safety Building, which shows the 3 arrays that I talked about earlier. And this one is for the Veterans Building. The activities yet to be completed for this particular project is we have to issue, the contractor is finished. We had 100% design. The plans have been submitted for permits. Even if we got the permits, we are not going to issue the notice to proceed for construction until the contractor assures us, and we can convince the tribal council that, hey, we are not going to experience the same type of problems that we did in Big Cypress over here. And that is an uphill battle. But that's the situation. I still believe that going solar is the way to go, because again, I borrowed these slides from Google. So it says every second our sun produces enough energy to sustain Earth's energy needs for 500,000 years. And 100 square miles of solar panels would produce enough energy to supply the entire United States. And the closing thought I always leave is that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. That's a saying that's been attributed to Chief Seattle. I can't find a better way to end, so I haven't changed that. Thank you.
Okay, is there any questions real quick before we go on break?
I have one.
Okay, go ahead, yes.
I noticed that you have a lot of permits and different regulations that you refer to in here, building permits. If it's on trust land, do you still have to do that because of the grant funding?
You want to repeat that?
The question is whether or not the amount of permits that we have. The Seminole Tribe follows the Florida Building Code. We have adopted the Florida Building Code, so we try to make sure that we adhere to it. And in South Florida, the actual building code is more strict than other locations, and we are trying to make sure that we build in order to the minimum standards that are required by the Florida Building Code. Our tribe also has an environmental Environmental and Resource Protection Department, and they issue permits and give us an ECR clearance before we can actually build any project. So it has to be reviewed and approved by them first.
So it's a tribal permit, not a state?
It is a tribal permit, but trust me, it's easier to get a permit from the federal government than from here in the department.
So other projects wouldn't require that?
No.
Okay.
Does the Seminole Tribe have any plans to engage in utility scale projects to feed to the grid?
That's a good question. We did engage in a tribal utility authority study. We have not, a decision has not been made with regards to that as yet. The consultant, Baker Tilly, supposed to be working on a phase 3 of that tribal utility authority study, probably provide some guidance with regards to benefit cost towards following that route.
Okay. All right. Well, let's give Harvey a round of applause.
Thank you.